Hey everyone, and welcome to the first video in our course. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on the user interface of Gaea and just getting ourselves familiar with the software and comfortable to use. For those of you that don't know, Gaea is a standalone terrain software package, and it was built by the same team that had actually built the plugin for World Machine, which was Geoglyph. So they used the success from that and kind of pulled the resources and built Gaea, which is personally my favorite terrain package to use. I find it the most user-friendly and intuitive. You get some fantastic results very, very quickly. So I can't recommend this software enough, which is why we're doing the video course. So once you've downloaded Gaea and installed it, when you launch, you're going to be prompted with this window, so how we'd like to use Gaea. And we can open an existing file, one that we've already worked on. We could do a quick start, kind of open a terrain that is already made by the team and just see how they use the nodes. We can do some sculpting. But the main two are here. So creating a terrain with layers is very similar to Substance Painter, Photoshop, Affinity Photo. So you're going to work in a layer stack. But alternatively, the one that I prefer to use is a graph system. So for those of you that have used Substance Designer, Houdini, Nuke, you'll feel right at home here and very comfortable. So for the user interface part of this and the rest of the course, we're going to be looking at using the graph system. So let's go ahead and click this and let everything load. There are a few, I don't want to say major bugs, but let's just call them bugs in the software where you'd be required to just do a hard crash. Unfortunately, the software still is still new. So bear that in mind, and I'll try to edit those out of the course. So this is the window we get by default. You can see we have this pretty large 3D viewport, and we have our nodes in the lower half. So very clear, very easy to understand, and we can change the ratio between these just by dragging here. For the 3D viewport, we can just left click to rotate around our terrain, and we can middle mouse scroll to zoom in and out, or middle mouse click and just pan around our terrain. And that's kind of how we would navigate the 3D viewport. In terms of updating the 3D viewport, all of that happens in the node section. So we can just click on a node and you can see it gets highlighted, and this is the one that's being previewed in the viewport. So if I click the displaced node, you'll see that it's updating. And if I click the erosion node, we're now getting some erosion on our terrain. But to add some new nodes, let's just bring that up. You see on the left side, we have our toolbox. And over here is pretty much the entire library inside Gaea. And we can use whatever we like inside the node section. So I can simply just drag and drop primitive. And this will give us a new terrain to start working on. And then we have everything categorically organized. So we have some adjustments, so we can use these to adjust the terrain. We have filters to apply these on top of the terrain further. We have tons of erosion nodes. Personally, I've not seen this many in any other terrain package. So it's impressive that there's so many inside Gaea and they all work extremely, extremely quick. We have data maps to kind of get, you can use these for weight maps and other sort of things to texture your terrain, selectors, color, etc. So this is where all of the tools are available and what you'll be using to build your terrain. And then up here we have the resolution of the terrain. So by default it's set to 0.5K purely for speed. You want to work quickly in the software and then bump it up to 2K or 4K or whatever it is that you need when you're about to export. I don't recommend working at 2K. You're going to spend most of your time watching the loading bar. But if I put this to 1K, you'll see we get the yellow loading bar, and that's just showing you that it's updating. And now it's updated. And if I click on the displace, you'll see that it just did a quick load. And now it's at 1K resolution. We'll put it back to 0.5K for the purposes of the video though. Then up here we have the name of the file, of course. And then we have 4 icons here. So we have orbit mode, which is the current 3D viewport. but I can change this to first person and just get a quick feel, or sense of scale on our terrain, just to get an idea of how large this mountain actually is. This isn't going to be perfect. I would recommend chucking it into a game engine and actually running around with a player, but this gives you a quick idea of just how large the mountain is. Then we have orthographic, so just a 2D view of our terrain. So I can just click here and get an idea. And then I can do show 2D viewport. So I tend to have it set up like this. I have my 3D viewport on the left, much like Substance Designer. And then I'll have the 2D viewport here. And if I click, you can see that they both update. And it's just a great way to make sure that your height map is looking correct and what you're about to export is usable, I guess, and doesn't have any like sharp drops in the terrain. You kind of want this to feel smooth. But you can always just toggle this on or off. And then over here on the right, we have a few more options here. So we have materials, which is, I don't want to say the lighting, but just the visualization material on the terrain. So by default, we're using the left one, which is just the standard. But we can select the roughness one, which will give us a bit more information on our terrain. Or we can go for the hyperlighting, which gives us this. And maybe we should go to erosion, get a better view. So I tend to stick to the default. I find it the most, I don't want to say believable, but the roughness ones give you an idea of kind of the smaller details that you might not pick up on the standard lighting mode. And in the second option of the lighting preset, so we can just manipulate this if we want to, increase the sun, change the ambient intensity, the altitude. Of course, if you've done what I've done and you've ruined all of the numbers and want to go back, you can simply right click, and in the middle is reset to default values. So if we want to go back to default, I'm just right clicking, and in the middle is reset. And you'll see there's loads of options here. We can decrease by 1, 5, half it, but we're going to just stick to the defaults. And then here we have the water level. So if you want to add some water to your terrain, we can go ahead and just have an island. Actually looks pretty cool. Also, once you've added some nodes to the network, like how do you actually manipulate these things? Well, if you select the node, you'll see on the right side we get some options, and this is where all of the parameters are available for each specific node. So the left side has your toolbox and the right side has all of the options that we can change. And if I change the scale, then you'll see the 3D viewport update. And down here at the bottom, we have some quick shortcuts to change the, I guess you could say, the end result of this specific terrain. And over here, we have a few more options. So if I select erosion, you'll see we've encountered a bug, and I'm actually happy that it's popped up in the video. So if you get this bug where your viewport doesn't seem to update, like this erosion, you actually have to hard crash, unfortunately, so we'll stick to the displaced node. If you do get this bug, then you'll have to save and then restart, and it should come back to normal. So if we just click displace, over here we have a few more options. So we can delete our node here, or just press delete on the spacebar. We can reset the node, so we'll just put everything back to the default values. And what else? We got mark for export. So this is actually useful. We can just tell this, like, it gives it the save icon. So when we build, it knows to spit out the image, this image for us. So super useful. You can also just right click the node and you'll get some of these options. So mark for export, F3 is the shortcut. If I press F3, you can see we can toggle this. We can pin node, so F. So what this does is lock that node and the viewport. So if I press F here, you see we get this pin icon, and if I select dunes, you see that nothing updates. This is a great way to start manipulating the mountain, for example, and see how it displaces. Super useful. And then we have the toggle node, so we can switch between the 3D or 2D. So if I just select this, actually we need to unpin, press F. You see we can see our terrain in a 3D view. But if we want to see what the 2D map looks like on our terrain, then we can simply just press this or press U for the shortcut. Again, super useful. And then down here we have a few more options. So this will just auto fit our graph, make everything fit in one view. This I never use. This just lets us zoom in, same as the mouse wheel. I never use that. And then over here we can force a refresh. So if your viewport's stuck or buggy, try this. It will force everything to recompile. If that doesn't work, then you might need to just hard crash and restart. And then my favorite node, which I thought it was earlier, is actually the mutate. So this will just randomize everything in your node graph. So you can actually read the node here. Randomizes the node shape by changing the seed value. Yeah, so you can use this to kind of just random seed your entire terrain. So I could just select these two, for example, hit mutate. It's going to pop up a warning because it's pretty destructive. It will update and you'll see that we get this new dunes. And you'll see that it's actually a little bit buggy. Cool, and now we have a new terrain. So of course, if I had the entire graph built, I could press this, it will mutate everything, and I'll get a brand new terrain simply at a click of a button. And if I don't want to mutate absolutely everything, then I can just select a few. If nothing's selected, then it will mutate everything. Cool. And then lastly up here, and if you just click Gaea, you actually have a few options here. So preferences, we can import graphs. And the preferences, we can just change a few options. So we can change the workspace to have medium nodes. I prefer large. We can change the colors depending on your preferences. How the node lines connect. Cool. So yeah, it's a brief overview. I hope you're a bit more comfortable with the UI now. Take a look, mess around, get comfortable with the software, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll be taking a look at the primitive nodes, so what we have over here.